Christmas is the season of good cheer, of peace and happiness among people all over the world. Every year at this time, our custom and traditions, many of them rooted in superstitions, having to do with crops and harvests. And they were played out by my family with great care. You see, we were living in a tiny village in Croatia, where we were dependent upon the land for our livelihood. Peasants we were, really, a hard life, where our only escape was our celebrations. Our dances and music were particularly important to us because we didn't have much else. I suppose it was a way to express ourselves, to give ourselves an identity. And each village treated their dances and music as prized possessions. And each village had their own cultural traditions. Now for us, Christmas always began on a more solemn note, with hymns and processions to and from church. But as the day wore on, generally things became pretty lively, with lots of singing and dancing and much merrymaking, as our friends and families gathered to celebrate this special day.
It was all such a long time ago. I was young then, a small boy actually. And with the onset of winter and the falling snow and the crisp cold weather, and then there were the bustling preparations in readiness for the holidays. Scenes from my childhood come back to me in a rush, as memories do. Those early days of my youth in Croatia, my homeland.
Our house was always the center of activity in our selo, our village. It was in our house that extended family, friends, and neighbors gathered to celebrate every Christmas. And during this, the most beautiful season of the year, it never mattered how rich or poor a person was, Christmas was a time for celebrating in the grandest of ways. Everyone, from the youngest to the oldest, showed great enthusiasm during the weeks of preparation prior to Christmas. Family and friends put aside their differences, their worries, and their cares, and everyone gathered to celebrate Christmas together. There was always a large table in the room around which everyone would gather to eat, drink, and visit. The table was covered with our best hand-woven linens. And set on the table in preparation for the visitors expected later that day, there were bottles of wine and shlivovica, a plum brandy, which had been set aside for this special celebration. My mother and Teta Maria, Aunt Mary, spent much of their time in the kitchen baking breads and kolache, pastries, and strudels, soups. And on Christmas Day itself, they were busy roasting succulent meats and tasty vegetables. In the center of the room sat a smaller table over which was placed a tablecloth. And my grandmother insisted it be a white one, since under it later we always placed straw, representing a manger. My sisters had the job several weeks prior to Christmas of planting grain in a dish. After it would grow several inches high, a ribbon was tied around it and it was placed on the table above where the manger would go. The superstition in our village went that if the grain didn't grow, our crops would suffer. In the center of this dish, my mother always placed a candle which would be lit on Christmas Day. And the božičnak was really the masterpiece of baking. My aunt would decorate with all sorts of symbols of the season. I would always accompany my father to the barn, where we would gather fresh, sweet-smelling hay. And with great ceremony, we would decorate the hay with red, white, and blue ribbon, and carry it, procession-like, inside the house, where we would place it beneath my grandmother's table. It was a family tradition to have the Yule log called the badnjak burning inside the kitchen hearth throughout the Christmas season. Now, for us villagers, the badnjak symbolized prosperity and strength for the new year. And then there was the Christmas tree. Weeks beforehand, my mother, grandmother, sisters, and I would prepare the decorations. In my village, we decorated with apples, nuts, colored ribbons, and lace crocheted into snowflake patterns. Now, another family favorite was bread dough ornaments baked in heart shapes, which we then decorated with tiny mirrors. And the tree trimming continued on throughout Christmas Day. It was always my special job to place through the traditional star at the very top of the tree. Our festive home was decorated, and it was waiting for the groups of villagers who would come to our home on Christmas Day singing a song called Cogliere. My mother and father always invited these friends into our home for something to eat and drink. Often, they had such a good time that they would stay on well past midnight, singing, dancing, eating, and drinking. Now, the only real demand my mother would place on these guests was that the first person to pass through the door must be a male, another sign of good luck for the next year.
Otvorite vrata!
Panie Isus! Sretan Božić svima!
sve naše mile i drage koji više nisu sa nama. Prijatelji, dobro nam došli na ovu svetu noć. Neka mir u vašim srcima vlada, radujte se i veselite s nama. Sretan Božić svima!
I sretna Nova godina!
Muzikaš, svirajte nešto samo za nas muške!